Welcome, everyone, to the brand new season of The Ultimate Coach, a journey into conscious creation of our being.
Okay, so keeping my word. Monday, Wednesday.
Thanks, Damien.
I'm gonna mute everybody.
Right on. I invite you to be fully present as you raise the consciousness of your being as a global leader. The Ultimate Coach book was written by the incredible Amy Blake Hardison, the ultimate author, and researched by the ultimate researcher, Dr. Alan D. Thompson. We thank them both for their magnificent commitment creating the Book of Being, which continues to plant seeds in those willing to read this book about themselves, creating a ripple effect around the planet. We would like to acknowledge Steve Hardison, the ultimate coach, the angel of fire, for listening to Spirit, creating the questions on the back cover and the first pages before you begin, which creates the awareness of reading the book about oneself. Thank you, Steve, for the impact you continuously, consciously create in each of our lives across the universe. This event is sacred, co-created space for a deep experience of the Ultimate Coach book as we gather together. I especially want to acknowledge each and every one of you for creating the possibility to be here, fully present with us today. Your presence is valued and honored. Today, we are blessed to have Angela Mayora for saying, thank you for saying yes as our special guest reader to read Chapter 2, Roots. Yeah, you have a powerful impact in the lives of many, including myself, in this community and the ultimate experience and around the world. It's our great honor, and we thank you sincerely for being a yes, let's go in service with your presence here this morning. Everyone give it up for Angela. Yeah. So as we begin, please share in the chat, where are you joining us from? Just put it below. Where are you joining us from? I'm here in Vancouver, Canada. There are cherry blossoms blooming. It's cherry blossom season, so spring. Where are you guys from? So let's see what we got here. We've got Iowa, Toronto, another Canuck, Florida, Brighton, Bangalore, Squamish, right on, Arizona, San Diego, Seattle, India, South Florida, Culver City, Belleville, Yosemite. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't even know how to say that, Liz. Somerset. Okay, wow. And I think, Vanessa, you're in Ecuador. And Ralph is in London. Wow, we are like world. We are the world. So I love that we are all here together here now. By the way, there's something exciting we've got for you this season. I'd like to share with you the new intention we have for this new season. So we have a downloadable sheet for you to take notes with a call to action for each of us to focus on creating one line of our document per chapter. If you already have a document, we invite you to notice if there is anything you would like to revise from your one line of your document. If you notice there is frosting on top of poop. we invite those of you who are newly creating and or have already created your document to explore new and fun ways to implement that one line of your document from now on. So it's about implementation, yeah? And do it now, yeah? Right on, Angela. And so if someone could drop the link for that sheet for you to take notes, please drop it in the chat for us. Anyone on tech, Liz? Thanks. Right on. So now we've got something, an invitation for you to go ahead and put in the chat the one thing that most excites you about being here now. What is exciting you about being here now, reading together? Put it in the chat. I want to know. I'm curious. Okay. Expansion of being, Wanda. Beautiful. What is exciting you the most about being here in this moment now? Connection and possibility. Beautiful. Connection with TUC family. Oh my God, I can't read this fast. Raising the consciousness of the world. Seeing your smiling face. Understanding oh, I can't read this fast. Loving happy people. Slow down. Discover what messages there are for me today. Document. Loving happy people. Surrendering. Okay, you guys are awesome. Love. Angela, what's exciting you the most about being here today? I don't think I read that.
Raising the consciousness of the
Oh,
world.
that was you. Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay, excellent. Right on. Right on. Okay, well, so this is not just any get together. This is amazing. So the journey to your heart begins with listening about you. And as you listen to the words written about you, allow any insights to come up and allow for feelings, whether uncomfortable or liberating, and allow your soul to be stirred. Here in this space, we enter into the truth of our being. From this space, you remember the essence of you. We request that when you read about you. When you listen about you. And when it comes time to share about you. So, yay, it's time. Tanya, let's go. Let's go.
All right, everyone, it's time. So we're getting ready to get started, and our beautiful Angela Mayora is here, and her famous saying is, let's go and let's grow. So who's got their book today? I'd love to see who has their book today. And do I have any volunteers to read? Beautiful, beautiful. Do I have any volunteers to read the back of the book? And before you begin, if you would like to be one of our special guest readers for the back of the book, please raise your electronic hand. I see Tom's hand did not go up virtually first, but it did go up. So I see Tom and I see Mr. Ralph. So beautiful. I would like to ask you then, Tom, would you please be our guest and read the back of the book? And hold on tight though. And then I'd love to ask Mr. Ralph. Ralph, would you be our guest honor in reading the Before You Begin by Steve Hardison? And then as soon as each of you have completed your readings, we'll flow right into Miss Angela. And Angela, you will carry on and read chapter 2, Roots. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. And I'm not going to take too much time because I would love to just get us started. So would like to just invite each of you to take a nice deep breath in. Exhale. Would like each of you to put 2 fingers together and rub 2 fingers together, bringing you here and now. I would love for you to wiggle your toes, Wiggle each of your toes, find your toes. Take one more nice deep breath. Exhale. Thank you so much for being here and now, and for doing whatever you did to be fully present here and now to receive this gift of this book reading for chapter 2, Roots. So Tom, would you like to get started and go ahead and read the back of the book?
Dear potential reader, as you may have noticed, there are no testimonials on the back cover of this book imploring you to read it. I vetoed that. The only testimonial I am interested in is the one you will have from reading and experiencing this book. Please do not read this book about me. Read this book about you. Read it about being. As you read, ask yourself, who would I need to be a more loving person? Who would I need to be a more effective parent? Who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? Who would I need to be at peace with who I am? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? I promise you that if you read this book with the intention of expanding your state of being, you will do exactly that. Your experience will be remarkable. Who you are being is everything. Loving you, be blessed, be you. Steve Hardison.
Before you begin, I never wanted to write a book, and I haven't. I never wanted to have a book written about me, but here it is. The book is a gift from my wife, Amy, who wrote it, and my friend, Alan D. Thompson, who conducted the research and interviews on which it is based. And it's not just a gift to me, but a gift to you too. And now you're reading it, so with your permission, I'll give you some suggestions on how to read it. You see, this isn't an ordinary book. It's not simply a biography. It's not a self-help book. It's not a literary classic. It's definitely not a book about how to coach. In fact, it's not a book about doing anything. It's a book about being. And it's a book about you. To access this book, ask yourself these questions as you read. Who am I being as a partner, parent, or friend? Who am I being as a leader? Who am I being as a member of my community? Who would I need to be to have miracles show up in my daily life? Who would I need to be to create the value in the work I do? Who would I need to be to generate a life of abundance? Who would I need to be to alter my relationship with fear? Who would I need to be at peace with my past? Who would I need to be to step powerfully into my future? Who would I need to be present as a way of being? Who would I need to be to live the most extraordinary life I can live? Who would I need to be to know that my life makes a difference? Who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? Who would I need to be to improve my relationship with the most important people in my life? Who would I need to be to read The Ultimate Coach and have a personal breakthrough in being wonderful me? The best part about this book is about you, is that it is endless. The story goes on and it's written by your being. Loving you, be blessed, be you, Steve Hardison.
Ralph and Angela, really quickly to get started, I would like to invite everyone, if there was a particular question that stood out to you today as the back of the book was being read and the before you begin, if you would like to focus on that question throughout the book reading, or if you'd like to place that question at the top of your page in your notes. Sometimes it's helpful when we go into with an intention of listening to the book with that particular question. So I'd like to invite you to that. Thank you so much. And Angela, take it over.
Chapter 2, Roots. Two handsome airmen stood on the side of the road with their thumbs in the air. It was 1944. The war still raged. Maureen and her girlfriend were driving by Hill Air Force Base when they spotted the airmen. Should they stop? Why not? It was a split-second decision that lasted a lifetime. Maureen Forbes was a Mormon girl from a small town of Clearfield, 25 miles north of Salt Lake City. She had green eyes and auburn hair. She was vivacious and intelligent, the valedictorian of the class of 1944 at Davis High. She played the organ, the violin, and the piano. She adored jewelry and had a flair for fashion. She also had a bit of attitude and just the right amount of kick-ass. Roy Hardison was a paratrooper in the Air Force. He was handsome, slender, and tall, just over 6'4". He was raised in Kentucky by God-fearing parents who walked several miles each Sunday at the local Baptist church. As sharecroppers, they lived a hard-scramble life, made harder by not knowing how to read or write. On payday, others helped them cash their paychecks, skimming the top off a check that barely covered necessities. Roy did everything possible to erase all traces of his humble origins from his life. His shoes were polished and his fingernails manicured. He was impeccably dressed. He was rough around the edges, but that was hardly noticeable when he cut such a striking figure. And it wasn't just appearance, he had charm. Later, Maureen would frequently say he could talk the birds out of the trees. Maureen was smitten. At 18, Marie still had to be home at 10 o'clock every night. Roy was adventurous and exciting, the opposite of Maureen's tamped-down life. They eloped on June 9th, 1945. Not ready to tell her parents, Maureen returned home as if nothing had changed. When her parents found out that Miss Maureen and Mrs. Hardison was when her parents found out that Miss Maureen was Mrs. Hardison, they sent her to her husband. She made her bed. She would lie in it. Children. It wasn't long before Maureen was expecting a 2-for-1 pregnancy. Unfortunately, her twins came too early. She delivered them in her bathroom, attended by her mother and a local doctor. Sammy and Danny didn't live long. The doctor dropped them in a bucket. Maureen's soul shuddered. By the next year, a healthy and robust baby boy, Rob, joined the family. He was followed by sisters Jamie and Teresa. In 1953, Roy was deployed to Bitburg, a small town in Germany. Phil was born in June of 1954. 13 months later, Steve was born at a military hospital in Bitburg. He weighed 11.5 pounds and was the biggest baby in the hospital as of 1955. A year later, the family was in Mountain Home, Idaho, and the year after that, Roy was deployed to Spain. Maureen and Roy's marriage was difficult. They both had strong personalities. Roy was fond of playing poker and often played with the officers from the Air Force Base. His losses strained the family finances, and he was a bit of a libertine. In the 1950s, it was routine and reasonable for Americans living abroad to employ household help. One morning when he was living in Germany, Maureen walked into the kitchen and said good morning to the maid. The maid spat in her face. Why this sudden contempt? It seems Roy had forced himself on the maid. In Spain, Roy and Maureen went out to eat with another couple, whom they will call John and Mary. During dinner, Roy announced that he and Mary were in love. They were leaving their marriages and going off together. While Maureen grappled with this betrayal, Mary said, "I've changed my mind. I'm staying with John." Roy turned to Maureen and said, "Well, I guess I'll stay with you." Maureen longed to divorce Roy, but with 5 children and no college education, their options were limited. She stayed in the marriage. Throughout his adult life, Roy was good at making money, but he was better at spending it. He frequently picked up the tab for steak dinners and rounds of drinks, propping up his image as a high roller with deep pockets. At home, Maureen barely had enough money to put food on the table. Roy's excessive spending and gambling debts caught up with him when they were living in Seville, Spain. He resorted to writing bad checks, 16 of them for a total of $810, worth about $8,000 today. He faced a military investigation. To avoid the possibility of a dishonorable discharge, Roy resigned from the Air Force. The family returned to the States and moved to Indiana, where they lived in East, Gary, Hammond, and Griffin. One of Steve's earliest memories occurred at this time. He was young, still waddling in diapers. He was outside on the front porch. It was snowing. He couldn't get into the house. His diaper was soiled. No one was there to help him. They should be there to help him. He felt abandoned. This was the most traumatic abandonment Steve would experience, but it was his first. It etched into his soul. Civilian life wasn't going well. Home life became violent, loud, explosive, uncertain, and stressful, especially when Roy had been drinking, and he drank a lot. Steve remembers a family dinner ending abruptly when his dad launched a bowl of mashed potatoes across the room, potatoes flying everywhere. If Roy wasn't drinking, he could be fun. Jamie remembers him playing kick the can with him. He liked practical jokes, however. His play edged to cruel. He short-sheeted his kids' bed, crumbled up cornflakes and put them in their sheets, put Tabasco sauce inside of Oreos. Rob, Steve's older brother, learned to never take anything his father offered him. Roy taught Rob to play baseball by throwing baseballs as hard as he could at Rob. He taught Rob to swim by throwing him into the river in Germany and walking away. Nothing Rob did was ever good enough for Roy. If Roy raised his hand quickly, Rob ducked. By the time Roy was 14, he had peptic ulcers. Roy was gentler with the girls. He doted on Teresa. Phil and Steve were too young to pay attention to. The most traumatic event of Steve's young life occurred late one night when Roy, under the influence, was beating Maureen. All 5 kids were in the house, laying petrified in their beds. When Maureen screamed for Rob to help her, Roy threatened, "If you get out of bed, I'll kill you." They all took him at his word. No one moved. Clearfield. Several states away, Ellen Forbes fretted. Her daughter was in trouble. She was sure of it. Ellen and John, Maureen's parents, asked their son Myron to go to Indiana and assess Maureen's situation. Despite a debilitating fear of flying, Myron braved the 3-hour flight. When he got to Maureen's house, the kids were home alone. Marie was working at a bar and Roy had been missing for several days, presumably on one of his benders. Maureen reported back to Ellen. Ellen and JP scraped together the money for 6 train tickets to Ogden. Maureen and the kids fled before Roy returned. Ellen and JP were almost finished building a house next to their current one. When Maureen and the kids arrived, Ellen and JP moved into the new house and gave Maureen their old one instead of selling it or renting it. Maureen had come full circle. She was back home under the watchful eyes of her parents in a small town where she had grown up. It was a relief. However, she didn't return to the religion of her youth, keeping her slightly out of step with her Mormon community. Ellen and JP were 68 and 73 respectively when Maureen moved in next door. At that age, when others might be retiring, Ellen and JP were still running their small farm, 11 acres just west of the railroad tracks. They had chicken, cows, and a small orchard with apple, apricot, and cherry trees. They grew beets, green onions, tomatoes, wheat, and hay. Their primary income was from the milk their cows produced, but they also sold some of their produce. They didn't have the time or energy to raise a second family, but they were there for emergencies. Maureen started waitressing full-time and going to school. She was proud and independent. She did everything she could to make it on her own without church or government assistance. She didn't quite pull it off. They had industrialized sized peanut butter from the church's welfare center in the pantry and milk from JP's cows. Steve hated the milk, often had cow hair floating in it, but the milk and the peanut butter were enough to keep hunger at bay. Still, Steve hoped his friends would invite him home after school so he could get a snack, and on a really good day, an invitation to dinner. Work and school pulled Maureen out of the home for most of her children's waking hours. Jamie said there were long periods of time when they never saw their mom, except for when she came home to sleep. Rob and Jamie were in charge of the younger siblings. They were going to school and working at local restaurants. Rob worked as a busboy at the Officers Club at Hill Air Force Base from 6 p.m. to midnight, and then tried to stay awake at high school the next day, often unsuccessfully. Minimal supervision had its perks. Steve explored the farms, the culverts, and the town. No one was restraining the curiosity or his propensity for mischief. No adult was hovering. No parent was pushing compliance. He had ample space to himself, but there were definite downsides. There were few family dinners and no family vacations. As far as Steve was concerned, there were a group of lone wolves living in the same house. Steve's dominant memory of his childhood is being alone. He came home from school to an empty house. When he played sports, no one was there to cheer him on. If he was sick, he was home alone. Once he had an adverse reaction to a medication and suffered hallucinations. He had to sort out reality for terror by himself. Often, Steve had to figure out homework by himself. He had questions about life, his body, and his future. Usually, there was no one around to ask. The worst time to be alone was night. Sometimes he called Grandma Ellen and asked if he could come over. She normally said yes, but Steve was terrified of the dark, a fear that lasted until he was 15. To get to Grandma Ellen's, Steve had to cross a sector of terror between the back porch and his grandma's back door. It wasn't far, but it felt like 3 miles. Steve's fears weren't groundless. Sketchy-looking men frequently walked by Steve's house after working at a nearby Job Corps, a training program for at-risk youth adults. One night, an intruder entered their home through Steve's window. Steve frayed asleep while the man hovered over him. The intruder's intentions, whatever they were derailed by Maureen shrieked, "Rob, get your gun. Someone's in the house." Her bluff worked. The prowler bolted out of the window. Steve was not the only one afraid in the Hardison household. From time to time, Roy called Maureen and threatened to come to Utah to take the kids. Because of this, Maureen never insisted on child support. She never received $1 from Roy to provide for his children. It was worth it to keep him away. Once Roy did show up. Steve was about 5. He remembers his dad putting him on the back porch. Steve pointed to the mountains and said he would like to go there. Roy said he would take him. Steve never saw his father again. These experiences left a mark on Steve. When Maureen left Roy, Steve lost a father figure in his life, but he also lost his mother. Her heart was with her family, but her time and energy was committed to temporal survival. Deep down, Steve knew that when you're 5 years old, adults should be there to help you. He also knew that when a dad says he will take you to the mountains, he should do it. How disappointing, how infuriating.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you so much for reading the chapter. And as we begin sharing and going around and listening, we would like to encourage you to listen deeply within your heart and listen to the stories that emerge within you. And as they emerged, as you were listening to today's reading, what triggered? Was there anything that got triggered for you? What patterns or false beliefs emerged? We invite each of you to please share what comes up for you. And in that sharing, you are invited to explore the real truth for you. What is the true I am when your negative thoughts and false beliefs fall away? And when we share, we help each other to open up and go deeper. So thank you for opening your heart and being here today. And I'd love to start with Tom. Tom, you are our first reader for the back of the book. Would you like to share what's present for you today?
Sure. It's thank you, first of all. Thank you, Angela, for reading. It's interesting. The question that I wrote down before we started reading was, who would I need to be fully in love with myself and my life? And what's curious for me reading this chapter is, you know, I have all my stories that I have about the challenges that I went through as a kid, which are different to obviously what Steve went through. We all had them. And when I'm not feeling kind of integrated and when I'm not kind of consciously creating myself, I can slip into a kind of powerlessness to those experiences and the impact that they had on me. And so I think what's present for me is that Steve probably had one of the hardest childhoods of anyone on this call, and yet here he is, this like ultimate expression of unconditional love. And so what's really present for me is the choice. You know, some people would have gone through what Steve went, some people would have gone through what I went, and they would be more Roy than they are Steve. And we have a choice. How am I going to be with this experience that I've had? So I don't know if I necessarily have an I am coming out of it yet, but it's something around that place of there is, you know, I mean, we talk about putting frosting on the poo, but there's gold inside every poo that we that we encounter, and if we're prepared to do a bit of digging and choose, then there are no bad experiences, as difficult and painful as they might be at the time. There is gold in them, and we choose whether to create that. And that's me complete.
Thank you, Tom. What a
Thank
really
you.
present share. I really honor how you receive that in the noticing of no matter the difficult experience, we still have the opportunity to receive gold from the experience and then choose who we want to be from those experiences. Thank you so much for sharing and reading today. So Ralph, would you like to share?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Angela. The reading really landed with me, and it made me think about the work you do and the work that many of us do around, you know, people changing the stories of their childhood. It's also beautiful to read with Tom because we're in a men's group together. And it made me think of men because, you know, this chapter it is about Steve's mum, but it's also about the absence of his father and the presence, and I know that Steve thanks his father for teaching him how not to be. If you know, I can't put words into Steve's experience, but from what I've gathered from his posts, what's come up for me is gratitude that my early childhood was very different to that. I'm very supported. On a male level, I then had problems in teenage years because of my dad being my deputy headmaster and my geography teacher, and all of the teachers living on the same street as me. So you can imagine it was quite a claustrophobic experience, and you had to learn to almost shapeshift to stay out of trouble. And because of that dynamic, my dad had explosive anger, and because of his own traumas that were different to Steve's. So it makes me think about the masculine, the intergenerational relationship between men. And I'm proud to say that I removed that anger with my own son. And I think he has had his own traumas with his health. However, I think we've had a closer bond because my dad built a foundation on which I could build, on which he can build. So it makes me think of that connection between the intergenerational nature of parenting and men. And yeah, what I take away from my document is to express the gratitude for the parenting I received, even though, like every parenting, it was far from perfect. And what I'd like to finish on is that it's everyone's first time living and everyone's first time parenting. So, you know, I've learned from Steve about judgment and from this community to remove judgment and to see, as Tom's covered, where's the magic? What can we learn from whatever has happened? How can we gain strength and move forward with resilience? And yeah, I've needed some resilience in the last couple of months, so I'm going to stick with that. And I'm very grateful for this kind of relational therapy to check in with this beautiful worldwide community and to be able to be so real and vulnerable and check in. It's a very powerful forum, and that's me complete. Love to you all.
Thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much. I heard the power of resiliency and honoring that we're all first-time parents, every single one of us, and we're all first-time living in this human experience. And to give ourselves grace, and with the power of noticing the possibility through unconditional love, how we can rise with resiliency and the intergenerational impact that it can create future forward through our knowledge, through our presence, and through who we are being in this moment now. So thank you, Ralph. Thank you so much for sharing and being here today. Thank you. Angela, would love to hear you share. Thank you so much for being here today with us.
Yes, thank you. What an honor. I love being here with you guys so much. I want to thank Tom and Ralph for your reading and Team Tuck for being present, doing an amazing job. Thank you for the awesome introduction, Andrea, earlier. And welcome to anyone if you're here for the first time. Welcome home. This is a great family. We're all here for one another. I feel the love. This chapter was, it was really good for me to read. A lot came up, a lot of triggers, a lot of things that I was able to catch right away, and then others that came after I read. So it's very interesting. It reminded me of my Air Force days and just that being the best decision to date that I've made professionally, joining the Air Force. So that was cool to read about that. It also, this chapter brought up a lot of unuseful thoughts to me. And it's amazing to me that like snap of the finger, I can become a victim again. It reminded me of my childhood. On page 13, home life became violent, loud, explosive, uncertain, and stressful, especially when Roy had been drinking. You know, my mom was a violent alcoholic and she tortured us, and it was rough, you know, and I started going back into that as I was reading and going back into all those thoughts of my past. But I'm not in the past anymore. I don't have to go, I can go back there for a second and I don't have to judge it. I sat with it, I greeted it, and told it to go. I'm grateful for my past. I'm so grateful for my upbringing and everything that I've experienced because it made me who I am today. This chapter reminded me of how important it is that I make conscious decisions. And the decisions, all of my decisions are so important. My grandmother made a decision to moving into an adult mobile home park. Split decision. I'm going to move into adult mobile home park with my new husband. My mom was 16 years old and she didn't want to be there. And so she left to go stay with her father in Rosarito, Mexico. And then very quickly she met my father. She got pregnant with my sister. She got pregnant with me. She got pregnant with my brother. And then boom, that's how I came to be. Like, it's so incredible to me that how important decisions are. And I don't want to just make random decisions. I want to be conscious of my decisions. You know, this chapter made me think of, you know, how my mom was an alcoholic and how I became an alcoholic. And I drank for 16 years, almost every single day I was drunk, being sober for 14 years now. And what a huge decision that was. And I was the first person in my family to break the damn cycle, right? Like, we don't have to continue our family's madness. So that was great to remember that. And this chapter has given me space to think about how compassionate I am for my mother and father's upbringing. Because my mom's father was a violent alcoholic. No wonder, like, she did what she did, you know, and I hated her for a long time. And how could you torture your children, like, in all of those things, but that's not how I am today with it. You know, I'm at peace with it today, and I have compassion for her, and I have compassion for my father. I've never had a mom or a dad, like, truly, and I'm so grateful for that. I really am. I'm so grateful for that, because if I had had a mom or a dad, like, I could be a completely different person right now, in a different place. Like, I believe that I went through what I went through to get where I'm at, to be there to help others. And it's so incredible. I just need to remember every day that this is not a dress rehearsal. Like, this is my life. And every decision I make is everything. The 2 I am statements that I got out of this is I am now, and I am grateful. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you, Angela. Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing all the work you've done to get to the place where you are in this moment of having peace in your heart through the experiences that you experienced from the original roots that you endured. And what a powerful acknowledgement that when you experience the trigger, it's amazing how you still notice it's easy to slip back into victim mentality. And that it truly is a conscious awareness and a conscious creation of who you choose to be now. That it's not a dress rehearsal and you get the opportunity to choose now. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. At this time, I would love to open it up to the community and give you the opportunity to share what's present for you. So if you'd like to raise your electronic hand, and I'd kindly like to remind you that this is the opportunity for you to go deeper for you and your own personal awareness and transformation. So when you share, please share about you. And I see our beautiful Anne-Marie raising her hand. Thank you, Anne-Marie, for being here today. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you. I missed you one and all. I'm glad to be back. And I just want to say what Tom had mentioned, that it was a choice, you know, for anybody to be like Steve or Roy, right? And so what choice did Roy have? Like, what were his parents like that Roy chose to be who he was as a father? And through this group, you know, I've lived in my past. My past is still part of my present. It's still a little bit in my future. And yet I'm able to do it like a cold plunge and not a swimming pool, right? I'm just going to get in and get out. Not like Dave, who just sits there and talks in a cold plunge. But, you know, it's not something you're going to bathe in. You're not going to play all afternoon in a cold plunge. You're not going to play Marco Polo there. You get in, you get out. And that's what your past is about, right? Don't swim in it because it's a choice. And so, you know, I've been trying to rewrite my past, and Dave Orton pointed it out. The difference between pain and suffering is pain is it actually happened. Suffering is wishing it could have been different. And the fact is, it's not different. It is what it is, what it is. But swimming in that gene pool or the cesspool of our gene pool robs us of our future. And we weren't born for that. We weren't born for that. Everything was a season. That's a season. It's over. Whether it was a springtime and sunny and your parents are great, or if it was a hellish winter that wouldn't end, right? And the choice is ours. And thanks to this group, I choose me. And also, I just want to point out, I just mentioned to somebody today about what lessons do we learn from our parents. And our other siblings, some of them seem like they have life easier, or maybe they're the favorite child, but we don't know. We don't know what baggage people carry into this world with them. Who's born to what? There's a golden child, there's a black sheep of the family, what have you. But there's the 5 points of the evolution of parenting. And it is, your parents did the best they could. They did better than their parents. You will do better than them. You will do the best you could, and your children should do better than you. That's it. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you, Anne-Marie, and thank you so much for being here and choosing to rise. Choosing to rise, sister. It's an honor to have you here and watch you grow with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, would you like to share?
Yeah, thank you. And I don't want to hog the mic, but there's something that just is calling to add to what I shared before, which is, I have related to a lot of the negative experiences that I've had as only negative. The fact that I was sent to boarding school and bullied, and I saw someone drown on the beach, and that all this stuff, like there's only a negative story. But like Angela said, without those experiences, she wouldn't be who she is. And what occurred to me just as listening to the Ralph and Angela and Tanya, you sharing, like Steve was a free-range child. There was no one constraining his creativity, his mischief, the line that sticks out is him being himself. Like no one was getting in the way of that. I had a very different experience where I was at boarding school and everyone was constricting my being. And the positive is I had access to sports and facilities, and so there's always two sides to every story, which I think it's important to recognize that before you can make a choice to which one you want to choose. And that's the piece that just came to me, is that there's two sides and we have to recognize both, and then we can make a choice which direction we want to go in. And I'm complete with that.
Thank you,
Thanks
Tom.
for letting me share again.
Yes, it resonates really deeply within me, because I recognize that I've judged a lot of my past too through negativity. I judged certain people not wanting to be a part of my life when I was younger, when they were literally down the street from where I lived. And most recently, I had the opportunity to get real curious and question, like put my 5-year-old self on the stand, put my 10-year-old self on the stand, and really get curious with those individuals and ask deeper questions. And what I learned gives me a different view, rather than coming from judgment, but just coming from a place of understanding that was who they were because of their experience as well. And that I didn't have to take it personal, but my 5-year-old and my 10-year-old and my 12-year-old and my 20-year-old self didn't know that at the time. And what did I do? I judged. And what did I do? I thought I was less than. What did I do? I thought I was not worthy of their love. And it just simply wasn't true. But I had to grow through and give myself permission to have a different perspective, see it from a different light, put on another pair of glasses and see it through a different lens. And it's been magical. So thank you so much, Tom, for being here and giving yourself the opportunity to see it through a different lens. Excellent. Penny, would you like to share? It's great to see you here with us today.
Thank you. I think everyone, most everyone has probably had, I mean, everyone's had a different childhood background, something that was hard. And reading this also took me back to my childhood um and my circumstances different, but it's still abuse. There's abuse, with the drinking and that. And for mine is more like sexual abuse with um my dad and abusing all the girls and cousins and stuff like that. So so for me, my I am statements, or two that I came up with, was I am that I learn and grow from every circumstance. And I'm grateful for all my experiences, the good and the bad. So we can learn, yeah, how not to be, or what we can do differently or something, but learning from every circumstance. And um yeah, just because I with how he was scared, Steve and others, it was like brought me back to being like hiding and not wanting to be alone. And maybe sometimes I do revert back to not wanting to be alone, like I want to be with others. But I love being around people and stuff, but not just because of that. But I do see that that I that where that came from, and I'm grateful for all my experiences, and how we can learn and grow from everything that we go through. I'm complete. Thanks.
Thank you, Penny, for being here and for your bravery and your share. You are such a beautiful, powerful, loving force of light, honey. And I am so grateful that you are in my life and that you are here. Thank you
Thanks.
for sharing your new I am. Powerful, powerful, just like you. Thank you. Steve Shaw, would you like to share this morning? Great to have you here. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry,
That's
thought
okay.
thought I clicked myself off there. But that was very powerful, Penny. Thank you for sharing that and what it took for you to share that. What resonated for me was this idea right at the end where it says when you're 5 years old, adults should be there to help you. You also know that when Dad says he will take you to the mountains, you should do it. How disappointing. And I think back about my life is that I always felt it right, a sense of being alone, like, and that no one was there to help me. But having said that, coming out through the filter of that, like doing it for I think who was that who said that we're doing the parenting for the first time. I think that, I don't know, it was Tom or
It was Ralph.
Ralph, I apologize. Ralph, that hit me too, because right, my parents were 24, 23 when they got married, and so they were young and doing the best they can. You know, my dad had an explosive um, temper too, and he was always off traveling. So I always felt a sense of like I was on figuring out life by myself. And so that's what resonates to me. And Whereas I guess my document, now that I just realized that, I should probably add to my document that I am not alone. I am connected. And so that's how I'm gonna take that and add that to today, to my I am connected. You know, that's why I come here on Sundays and can't always come here on Wednesdays, but on Sundays I'm committed. So that's what's showing up for me today. So I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Steve, for showing up, because through your showing up, that new I am statement has now been created. And that is so powerful. I am not alone. I am connected. Feel that shift, everyone. How many of us have ever felt alone? How many of us have ever felt disconnected or not connected to what we want to be connected? So to shift our perspective, to shift our thinking, to shift our conscious awareness and conscious creation to create where we're not alone, because we're choosing to not be alone anymore. We're choosing to be connected. And that is exactly what you did by being here today. You got connected and you are not alone, Steve. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Powerful. Kathleen.
Yeah, it's just such an honor to be with everyone today, and I appreciate all the shares. They're really just hitting me in my heart. So I thank you for that, to, help me to be that person that continually comes from that space. And when people are sharing from their heart, that it really helps slip me into like even a deeper space. So I thank you all for that. I think when we were reading the front and back in the book, what came to me is, who would I need to be to create a level of confidence that is remarkable? And when I go back to my childhood, we had a very large family. I was the oldest daughter. There was a lot of doing that had to be done that I did, that was my job, helping with the kids and dinner and those kinds of things. So I'm very used to doing a lot. And the being piece, the idea that all I really have to do is be, like that is like such a weight off my shoulders. And so that's what this chapter came to me. And the I am statement was, I am that I am, and that's enough. So I thank you all very much for that. And Tanya, you had mentioned the thing of every, Team Tuck, we're inviting people to create a line of their document with each chapter that they read. And I just wanted to let people know, Dave Orton and I are doing a free masterclass on the document that starts tomorrow. There's information on it on the website, or you can message me and I'll send you the link if you're interested. But it's a 4-week series. So thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen, for offering that, and Dave for offering that in the group, because this is exactly it. It's about doing the work around what is still triggering us. Where are we still at with our I am statements that aren't serving us into our greatness? And I know that they will be working through a self-forgiveness process that we have been invited to and experienced, and it was extremely powerful to truly shift those I ams that are no longer serving and to create what is actually even more true, and it serves us in a powerful way. And so I encourage everyone, if you are, again, you're finding yourself through being here today where it's digging up those roots, right? Maybe we have experienced where we thought, oh, I already dealt with that. That's no longer present in my life, but somewhere else it actually still pops up. Well, maybe you pulled the root at the top and it's still a little bit deeper, and you need to go down and pull the actual root of it, that weed that's preventing you to blossom and shine. And so if there's still a deeper root that's no longer serving you, give yourself permission, because that's where the true transformation and deep breakthroughs occur. Thank you. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Miss Dinah, hello, and thank you for being here today.
Thanks, Tanya. Wow, amazing shares. I wrote down 2 of the who would I need to be. They just jumped out at me. One was who would I need to be at peace with who I am, and the other was who would I need to be at peace with my past. What came up for me as I listened, and it's so interesting, this is my 4th trip through the book, and I was really realizing how different it is for me this time than the last time, the time before. But what came up for me, and I even wrote the word in the book as it came up, was fear. Fear. And then I realized that what I fear most now is being who I'm meant to be. And that I also underlined that the part where Steve talks about how his curiosity wasn't restrained, or his propensity for mischief. And for me, it was the opposite, that I felt growing up that I wasn't allowed. And so this week, I don't know if anyone saw Kasudi's presentation last Monday, but if you haven't, I recommend watching it. It's really powerful. And he gave a really simple tool to look at what's our purpose, what's your purpose. And I just realized this week that I've been so out of alignment, and that's why life can be so uncomfortable, because I'm so out of alignment, or have been so out of alignment. And the I am statement that I wrote was, I am that I was born perfect and whole, exactly who I am meant to be. And I am powerful, loving, beautiful, and wise, and the world wants and needs me. And then the other thing for me this week was forgiving myself. And thanks to Kathleen for a beautiful forgiveness tool that she gave me. And I wrote, I forgive myself for judging myself for being wrong and for being bad. And I forgive myself for judging myself for forgetting who I truly am. So my commitment is to really release the fear, which isn't real, and to stop the pattern of rejecting who I am meant to be, and for me to allow me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Dinah. You are absolutely right. The world does need you and want you, sister. So thank you so much for giving yourself permission to be free and to let go of the fear. Miss Andrea, would you like to share?
Yes, I got so much out of this chapter. Thank you, Angela, for reading. Thank you, Ralph. Thank you, Tom, for your reads too, and everyone share. I heard the alone. The trigger was the alone, that I felt alone when I was growing up, even though I had wonderful, devoted parents, and still I felt alone and not championed or cheered for. So I am choosing to be the source of my love and to be cheerleader. And so I am guided, I'm connected, I am now, I am the source of love. I am that I am. Kathleen, that came up for me too. I am that I am. And Dinah, thank you for speaking that you are powerful, because I am also have been hesitant to own it and step into it. So it's time, it's now, and let's go. Thank you. I'm complete.
Thank you, Andrea, for sharing. And what comes to mind is I just recently purchased this tree, if you can see it, and all around it, it has like these little wires, and it's rooted. And I too, like you, have often felt alone. And this tree reminds me that there's an ultimate connection that maybe we don't see that is surrounding us. And so I thank you for sharing your experience, Andrea, and stepping into and choosing to be connected, irregardless of those alone feelings from the past. And you are choosing to create something different. And not only for yourself, but globally in this community. You are the bingo connector. You are the one creating the connection globally for each and every one of us through your service. So I invite all of us to just experience this in this moment of how, as a possibility, every single thing that has happened up until this moment has been absolutely purposeful for you to be here now. Absolutely on purpose, because without those experiences, maybe you wouldn't step into, maybe you wouldn't, but you are. And you're choosing to create something different now. Thank you, Andrea. So powerful. Mr. Dave Orton, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure. Thank you, Tanya and Team Tuck, for your continuing brilliance in creating this beautiful experience. To have Angela read this was very powerful. I have just like this much information about what life was like for her growing up. I'm much, much closer, obviously, to my wife and her situation. And, I tried to protect her and our children from my father-in-law. I hated that man for 15 years. It's how long it took me to finally forgive him for how he treated my Penny. The funny thing about it was that he never messed with any of our kids. It all happened with other people in other branches of the family. And yet it happened. I thought that if we did this one thing, if I took him on a drive and threatened him with his life, that our kids would be safe. But that's simply not the way it is. I was reminded by Damien yesterday that this mess, without the mess that we're in or that we go through, wouldn't be who we are. For me, this chapter is one of contrast. I had and have a cohesive family unit, family of source unit. My parents love all of their children. They're still married. They're basically at the stage that Maureen's parents are now, and we get to see them this week, and I love it. My relationship with the divine was based on my relationship with my father, and yet in my mind, I still created suffering. There was nobody in our neighborhood that was my age. I was very much, I created my own suffering in that, thinking that our family was better than any of the other Mormon families around, because I don't know why, but we were so holy. It's making stuff up that has no bearing on reality. And yet I suffered because of that. And it's not, it sounds so petty compared to the suffering of Steve or Angela or Penny or any of the other people that have had actual hard times growing up. And I know some of your stories that are here. You beloved people whom I love with my heart all the way. And it's not my place to share your stories, and it is my place to say that I love you. And my compassion for you is based on things that happened later in life for me. In deep depression and suicidal ideation and not even when we had enough money to survive and thrive, I still had this terrible deep sadness that I couldn't seem to get away from. And that compassion, the compassion that came from there is so powerful. Again, as Damien says, bless this mess, because without that hell I went through, I wouldn't be experienced the heaven that I get to experience from time to time now. And it's not like it's gone away, but like November through February for me was another little dip into depression land. And I still get to serve, and I still get to, love, and I still, it's not like we ever get to check out of this life until we're done with this life. Life will life us, as they say in Landmark. And thank you for listening to this. And my I am statement was, I am grateful for my past, present, and future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave, for being here and for reclaiming what you're grateful for. And when you did this, right? If you're doing this as a possibility, it means you're alive, because that's exactly what our heartbeat does. Our heartbeat does that until it flatlines. And so through these experiences, we have that opportunity to grow and choose. That thought that came to my mind is, every time something happens to me that I feel like I go down into a victim mode or into that valley, is shifting my thoughts instead of, why is this happening to me? How is this growing me? And what is this teaching me? And just coming from that place, that honoring that this experience is growing me and is teaching me and is serving a grand purpose that I may not understand in this moment, but it is there. So thank you for sharing so vulnerably and being present with us today, Dave. And I absolutely agree with Damien in his message of bless the mess. Yes, yes. Miss Wanda, would you like to share with us?
Yes, I would. It feels so good to be here, and there's so much love in this room. And what a beautiful thing. Like I just feel something like vibrating from within me. I mentioned, I think, I was looking for expansion of my being in the beginning, like was my intention. Well, I sure did receive it today already, and I'm so grateful for that. And as we were reading, as this chapter was being read, Roots, a lot of things came to my mind, and I felt, sadness, and when there's sadness, there's tears. At least there is for me. And there was a time in my life, actually when I was growing up, that crying wasn't encouraged. That expression of ourselves was not encouraged. It was not okay to cry. And if we ever did, there was some unspoken time limit. Okay, if we went beyond that, again, it was not okay. And I never got to express that sadness or that hurt that I experienced as a young child, and as I was growing up in what seemed to be a very harsh world. My dad was absent, and when he did show up, he was often very angry, and he would take it out on us. And sometimes my older brother and I would argue, and we knew what would happen. We knew my dad would come out of wherever he was, working on whatever he was working on, and beat us. I would say. And I mean, it's not funny, but it is in a way, because there was one day when I sat there, because he would say, okay, who's first? And he never wanted to hear about who started it and whose fault it was or whatever. It's just like, we're both getting it. And so who's first? And so this one day my brother said, okay, I'll be first. And I sat there watching my older brother being beaten. And I thought to myself, like, why do we do this? Because we know that this is what's going to happen. And I guess I, at least on that day, made a decision to never do that again. Like, if that meant that I wouldn't have a connection with my father, like this being the only kind of connection, then okay, I won't have one. And and then my mom did get involved with somebody who was an alcoholic, and she was an alcoholic. And so there's lots of violence and lots of abuse and lots of anger and lots of hurt and lots of mean things said, to a little girl that didn't understand any of that. And the lack of expression about that. Like, I didn't have a space to express how that felt for me. And so what I did was I disconnected from that part of myself. And later on in life, I did that partly through the, use of alcohol and drugs. And, there was one particular example where my mom was being beaten one day. And I thought, oh no, like, it's happening again. Anyhow, I heard something fall down the stairs, and it turns out it was my mom. And she crawled, from the stair landing to sit up beside me on the couch. And I couldn't even recognize her. She was so badly beaten. And I was about 11 at that time. Anyhow, she told me what love was. And she said that it was okay. He loves me, and this is how he shows it. And I thought, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, so if this is love, it's not for me. That's it. I want nothing to do with it. And I retreated somewhere very, very deep within myself. And, lots of years of alcohol and drug abuse after that. But I was gifted with something, quite wonderful and later on in life. And that was the opportunity to spend some time with my mom, because I wasn't employed at the time, as she was dying in the hospital from cancer. And I wanted to do something for her, to help her with her journey. Not really having any understanding of what that journey was or would be for her. But I wanted to do something for her, so I forgave her. I decided, okay, I can give her that. I can give her forgiveness. And so I forgave her for anything and everything. And I said, I'm okay. Everything's fine with me. I forgive you for anything and everything. And it was such a beautiful experience. So as a result of thinking of all of this, forgiveness is really coming up for me big time. So the forgiveness of all the different people because they didn't really know any better. And they were likely incredibly damaged themselves. And they were acting out of that damage and that lack of understanding of things for themselves, that hurtness within, that they, probably locked away somewhere deep within themselves, like I did with that hurt for me. And then after, I had that experience with my mom, and I knew it meant a lot to her because her tears, her eyes welled up with tears and her lip quivered. And I knew it meant a lot to her. And I felt really good about being able to offer her that. At least she didn't have to take that on her journey. And then I realized, oh, okay, so what I really needed to do was forgive myself. And that's when things really began to change for me, when I did that. And because I didn't know, like, what did I know when I was 5 years old and, up to the age of 12 and onward even, like, what did I know? But especially when I was really young, like, what did I know? I didn't understand. And so the self-forgiveness piece and the, self-love and the self-compassion is so big for me right now in my life. And the self-forgiveness really released something very, very special for me. And what it released was my caged heart. And in a story that I wrote when I was, when I was in that process of forgiving myself for a lot of different things, I felt the presence of this, of my young self, the small child self. And I got this image of the small child self rising up from the darkness and holding something in her hands. And when she opened up her hands, it was my heart. And she had been holding it for me all this time. And so not only did I free myself, like my heart, because I think that my heart is my being, like that is who I am, that love is the answer to anything and everything. And I was born as love, and I am love. And it was such a beautiful opportunity and experience to be love by embracing my heart in that moment, but also embracing that young girl who was locked away with my heart. And I'm so grateful for that today. And to me, or, for me, like, that's who I was born as. I was born as love. And so now in my life, that's who I'm being as much as I possibly can. And that's what I want to expand within myself. But I also want to expand that out into, like, my community, and the larger communities of the city that I live in, the country that I live in, and the world that I live in. So thank you.
Thank you, Wanda. Thank you for sharing, all of you today with us. I really love how you shared that you were born as love. You were born love, and how difficult it has been for you and many of us, where maybe we really experienced those really challenging times in our lives and tears or crying was not encouraged. And so we suppressed it. We got so good at pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. or numbing out in whatever form. And as we are each working through this forgiveness process of others and our self-forgiveness process, as the feelings arise, I'd like to share just a quick story. I was visiting my father one time, and again, I was I'm not used to crying either, or at least at that time. And I noticed this majestic tree. It was just so majestic. And I asked him, Dad, what is that on the tree? Why does it look like that? And he said, oh, that's called resurrection fern. And I said, resurrection fern, what exactly is that? And he says, well, when there is no rain, it dries out and it dies. But when it rains, it comes back to life. And through that, it gave me permission to cry. It gave me permission to allow the tears to flow, because as a possibility, as I allowed it to flow through me, I was rising above the experience. I was rising through it rather than suppressing it and not facing it and recreating from the experience. And this week I was sitting in front of my property and I noticed a dove. And from my perspective, this dove was sitting or standing actually behind what looked like a cage. And so it looked like it was caged, but it was just a perspective. And just moments later, it flew away. So blessing you with your new freedom spirit as you allow self-forgiveness of others and self-forgiveness for yourself as well.
Thank you, Tanya, and those were beautiful stories. Thank you for sharing. Those are beautiful stories. Thank you.
Alex will be our last share for now, but for those of you that still have your hands raised, I would like to invite you into our after party to share. I would like to be cognizant of our time and respectful of our time together. So again, please, if you have your hand raised, we would love to hear from you. So please stay with us. But until then, Alex, would you like to share?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. That means my headphones are working. I've been trying to use this today, see how it works, see if I can cope with the headphones. I just want to acknowledge everybody for sharing so deeply, because that's brings a resonance to being so beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for deeply sharing that stuff. I know that every person I meet in the world is here to teach me something. And recently I've been taught something so powerful that it just blown my mind completely. And it kind of, it's like finding 50 pieces of a jigsaw all at once, and they all fit together perfectly. And because I'm always learning, so I'm always a student. And I've recently been doing a drama course with a guy called Hamish. He's not Scottish. But anyway, the second week we were on the course, he came up to me and said, "You're a punk." I said, "What?" He said, "You're a punk." And I thought, oh, okay. So then I had to go and look up what a punk is. And a punk is basically rebellion and unsupported of the status quo and generally rebellious. And I thought, yeah, maybe I'm a punk then. I thought, and then I thought back and I thought, you know what? When I popped out my mum, I was a punk immediately. I was a fully fledged, in your face punk when I was born. And so many things made so much sense to me. Like, I refuse to be parented, basically. And what that did for me was I felt that nobody cared for me. But it was actually myself. I facilitated myself to feel that nobody cared about me because I refused to be parented. I refused to go shopping, so I felt like nobody bought me anything, nobody cared enough to get me anything. I refused to eat anything that people gave me. I ate potatoes and raw bacon, basically. And so I in my being, I felt neglected. And all of these things that happened in my childhood, like I refused to celebrate my birthday. So I had no friends because this is when you're young, you have people around to your birthday and you eat cake and whatever. I refused to eat cake and celebrate my birthday, so there was no friends as such. So the whole catalogue of events that I facilitated as a child just came into complete resonance with me, and I just had this huge realization about who I am as a human, and what my being is. And then I thought, it's absolutely no wonder someone hit me, because that was the only thing that they could do to me. They couldn't make me eat, they couldn't make me party, they couldn't make me go shopping, they couldn't make me be cared for. So I got hit, and what a frustrating child. So the revelations I have about my childhood has completely shifted because I realized how much I facilitated my experience. And so that's what I wanted to share today, because I think that's really important for me. That I bumped into this man who's teaching this drama course who said, "You're a punk." And it opened up a whole kind of new chapter in my realization. Thank you very much.
What a divine experience, an unexpected gift, an unexpected miracle bumped right into creating this new openness in your life, this new perspective, Alex. And I just want you to know that you are surrounded by love through this journey of self-forgiveness.
Just extraordinary. Thank you. Thank you for sending me messages. I'm trying to read them, but I'm a bit blind, so I can't. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, really.
Thank you, Alex. I'd like to thank everyone for being here today. Yes, and you, Alex, like you showed up. You showed up, and that's incredible. Each of you showed up here fully as you and willing to go deeper, to create, to consciously create something new for you now.
Yeah.
So thank you for exploring this journey with us. And I would love to honor and again, acknowledge each of you that are here joining us for the first time. Thank you for joining us. And at this time, I would love to pass it on to my incredible co-host, Miss Cassie Button. Cassie, would you like to take us home?
Brilliant, thank you. I couldn't unmute then. Oh my word. Wow. What an incredible, incredible, incredible session today. My heart is bursting with so much love and joy and appreciation and thanks for every single one of you, and for me also for committing to being here to be able to witness and listen to all of your shares. I really want to acknowledge Angela Mayora, thank you so much for being you and for being here and for reading this incredible chapter, Roots, today with all of us here in community. Your presence and your being here and your sharing has just brought so much. So thank you, Angela. I also really want to acknowledge our incredible other two readers, Tom and Ralph as well. Your readings of the back of the book and the first 2 pages of the book, again, absolutely incredible, with the pure, beautiful essence of each of you and what you've brought through your readings and your shares. I've got goosebumps just even thinking about it right now. Thank you so much. I know that with the 3 of you having read and shared the way that you have, I'm definitely going to listen to this replay again, at least one more time. I'd like to acknowledge my co-moderators, Andrea and also Tanya, for your presence of being here and for your incredible facilitation on this beautiful, beautiful journey and an adventure. What an adventure I know I've experienced today, and I can only imagine for each of you through the shares that we have listened to. I'd like to also acknowledge the whole Tuck team for season 5. My goodness me, I kind of feel like we've really ramped things up massively. So much, and I'm really excited for the rest of what we have to share and facilitate for the rest of this season. So thank you so much for all the energy and effort and everything that all the team put into these readings and being here. We have got an upcoming reading event this week, and before I give those details, I just want to thank each and every one of you who are here present right now in this reading and community today. The energy and the space in this room, I feel like we've been in a really intimate room all together, yet we are spread so far and wide around the world. It's just phenomenal. Thank you so much for being here and everything that it's taken for you to be here. The decisions and the choices that you've made to be here today, to contribute to the incredible, you know what, it's going to be a butterfly effect from here. I know that from each of us. It's just phenomenal. So thank you. And for those that are reading the recording too, thank you so much for being here and listening and watching. So our next adventure together will be on Wednesday, the 27th of March. It'll be at 9 p.m. EDT. We will be reading chapter 3, Growing Up. And for this reading, for those of you that are here, going to join us live. And if you are going to join us on the recording, when you do join us, we invite you to bring a picture that reminds you of growing up, a picture of you that reminds you of growing up. And we're going to be joined by our incredible guest reader, Steve Bacon. So we would also love to invite you to join us, those that are able to, in attending the Ultimate Birmingham event on the 24th. In fact, it's not the 24th, the 25th and 26th of May this year. It's going to be held in Birmingham this year. And all of the proceeds of the event are going to be donated to the cochlear implant team, the department, all the amazing work that they do at Birmingham Children's Hospital to support the children that have hearing impairment. And this opportunity through the event that we will be co-creating, everybody who is there will be co-creating together, provides a new opportunity for hearing, for being here, for listening, for the children within that local community and beyond. So what an incredible opportunity that we're all contributing for that. And just a little reminder before we do depart, that we have got incredible resources for everybody to access and to support you all on your journey of being the magnificent being that you absolutely are, that we all are. We've got the Ultimate Coach YouTube channel. We have got the incredible podcast, incredible interviews there. We've got Instagram. We've got the LinkedIn group. We've also got a weekly newsletter that comes out via email with all the upcoming events. Kathleen has already mentioned the upcoming event that she and Dave will be facilitating. And we also have the live conversations that myself and Carrie have been facilitating over the last few weeks and months and continue to do so. And we've got a website called the ultimatecoachextras.com as well, which has got tons of resources available there. So with all that, I have immense gratitude and appreciation for everything that we have available to us in our becoming the magnificence that we are. So now I invite everybody to please unmute and wish us all a really good morning, a good night, a good afternoon, wherever we are, until we're together on Wednesday. So as you are, please go ahead. Good morning, good afternoon to you all.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome.
Good
Love
afternoon.
you.
Beautiful, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome you all.
Powerful.
Happy Penny.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
for
you.
being
Renata.
here.
Bye.
Really magical.
Good to see you all. Thank you very much.
Bless
you.
Wonderful day,
Amazing reading.
Wolfgang.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Good to see you
Thank you,
all.
Renata.